What's up, people? ToadSlayer72 here. Thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it. And in this video I'm going to be showing you a couple of cool modifications you can do to a glide bait, and I'll be doing it with an S-Waver 200 and UV knot sense. Alright, here we go. We're going to get this going with some footage of a standard S-Waver 200. No modifications done here, and this is a glide many people are familiar with. It's a solid bait. It's a really good bait, actually. Good looking bait. It's got a nice glide to it. I like the balance, the buoyancy of it. You really can't say anything bad about this bait, and that's probably why it's got such a good reputation. You know, it's a proven bait, and especially when you take into account the price point and the availability of it, and you got some color options. It's just a strong offering. But this is a modification video, so we're going to get right into this here. And this is your first introduction to me showing you about using UV knot sense to do this mod with these glide baits, and I'm attaching some to it in order to change, the range of motion of the tail. I got some on both sides here, and that does what you might expect it to do. With limited range of motion, you have a tighter action, tighter glide to it. I don't show it stalling really here in this footage, but you get the idea. I mean, it looks good. It rolls a little bit, and I think this works better at a little faster retrieve, but it still shows up in a slower retrieve too. Um, just a different look. And essentially you have two baits in one now just by doing this simple modification that's easy to do and easy to undo. So here it is, a little slower speed, and now we're going to get into showing a side by side here. And on the left we have the unmodded version. On the right is the modded with the UV knot sense on both sides, and it's pretty apparent here. It's pretty easy to see the difference. So now I'm going to show you how I do this. It's pretty simple. Just need some UV knot sense and a light source, a UV light source. I put it on in 3 layers. I find that works best. Start out with a thin layer, and that's going to give your other 2 layers something good to bond to, which is important. Otherwise the thing's just going to be falling off, and I tell you this because I know from trial and error, so just take my word on that. Now what you're doing here is you're just putting some on, curing it, putting another layer on, curing it, and then putting the 3rd layer on, which that one is the one that really bulks it up the most and gives you the main piece. But you can experiment with this stuff too. You can play around with how much you put on, and I did at one point experiment with it in an attempt to mimic what Depths does with the slide swimmer, as far as how that skin overhangs the joint and it gives that sound dampening. You can actually create a similar effect with this by tapering it, because it's viscous, and when you touch it and pull away from it, it stretches out a little bit, and you do it the right way, you can really stretch that out and then hit it with the light, and it creates this long taper, almost like a strand, like a hair or something. But when that hits the joint, it's softer, because it's got a little cushion to it, because it's got a little more give to it. But it's kind of awkward, and it's it's a little involved. So I only did a little bit just to see if I could do it, and I definitely was able to, but I didn't play around with it too much. So let's talk about the light now. Something you're going to need in order to do this. I mean, this stuff will cure in the sunlight, but it's a little harder to control, that way, and it's just nice to work with it with the light, because you can get it to where you want it and then hit it. But the important thing to know about a light is it has to be within a certain nanometer rating, and that's to cure the knot sense. It's very specific with the knot sense. Now, there are other adhesives and UV activated resins and glues and things like that, and they may need something else, but I know for a fact the knot sense operates within the 395 to 410 nanometer range, and that's something you'll see listed on a light, so keep that in mind. Alright, next we're going to move to one of the cooler aspects of this, and you can operate with just the knot sense on one side of the joint, and what that does is what I like to call it makes the bait look like it's limping through the water. It's a really cool thing, and it's got a lot of potential here in my opinion. you can see here with the restricted range of motion, the impeded range of motion on one side versus the other side has the full range of motion, and it just makes sense that you're going to get more movement in one direction than the other. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm manipulating this here intentionally, giving it a little extra on that long side in order to create these nice stretched out glides. But and I'm sure there's guys that are proficient at doing that anyway. But there's really no learning curve here. This is simple. I also want to take the time out now to point out how I have very limited experience using this bait with this modification to it. The truth is, I just don't use the S-Waver a whole lot. I mean, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just how I am with my fishing, and I'm just hung up on the 250. I feel like I have a lot more to do with that bait, a lot more to learn about it, and that's just how I am. I don't chase all these baits that are out there and have like 50 different glide baits and I'm switching them on and off all the time. That's just not how I do this. That's not how I am as a fisherman. So, um, the truth is I just haven't used this that much. So you'll hear me speculate on some of the potential here, and that's why, because it is speculation. But I've had this idea for years. I wanted to make a video such a long time ago. This footage here is at least probably going on 2 years old, and I had the idea in my head for longer than that. But just not having any experience with it, not being able to give any input from that perspective, someone that's done this and used it and tried it in all these different scenarios, that was a big part of the reason why I never put the video out. So, but that being said, man, I mean, logically looking at this, I can really see a situation where, you can control that trajectory of that bait, the overall trajectory of it, the amount of travel it has on that one side off the axis there. I mean, it just seems like you can really like curve that bait underneath maybe some overhanging trees or underneath some docks, even if it's just a little bit more than you normally would be able to do. And if nothing else, this really just is a different look. So there you have it. There is my modification. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching it. I do appreciate it. Hit me up if you'd like, and take care, guys.